Most people watched the Opalite music video and thought, okay, this is cute. Bright colors, goofy props, a rock, a cactus, nothing too serious. But here's the thing. Taylor Swift has never made a video this visually dense by accident. And when you slow it down, frame by frame, something unsettling starts to emerge. This isn't just a fun, unserious clip. It's a story about emotional labor, self-blame, and the moment you realize that loving harder won't save a relationship that was never alive to begin with. Because once you see what the rock really represents, you can't unsee it. And once you understand why Taylor sprays herself with Opalite, the entire video shifts from playful to painfully self-aware. At first glance, the video feels intentionally lightweight, almost cartoonish. The sets look artificial, the characters exaggerated, and the premise borders on absurd. But that exaggerated tone is doing something important. It disarms the viewer, it lowers expectations, and that allows the emotional message to land quietly, without resistance. Taylor has done this before, hiding heavy themes inside humor, and Opalite may be one of the clearest examples of that technique. One of the most striking choices in the video is its unstable sense of time. Visually, we move through late 80s, early 90s, and late 90s aesthetics, but nothing ever resets. These eras coexist. The past doesn't stay in the past. That blending suggests memory, not chronology, the way emotional experiences stack on top of each other instead of replacing one another. The living room itself subtly changes across scenes, as if the environment is responding to internal shifts rather than external logic. Small details reinforce this. Bookshelves change, magazines appear and disappear, objects are doubled repeatedly, 2 chairs, 2 props, 2 identical items in frame. It's not subtle once you notice it. The repetition of twos suggests duality, 2 choices, 2 versions of the same story, 2 outcomes depending on what you're willing to let go of. Then there's the rock. Absurd on the surface, devastating underneath. A rock is emotionally inert. It cannot grow, respond, or soften. It can be dressed up, carried around, included in life experiences, but it will never reciprocate. And crucially, it is heavy. Loving it requires constant effort. Carrying it becomes a burden disguised as devotion. This isn't framed as villainy. The rock doesn't do anything wrong. It just is what it is, and that's the point. The cactus introduces a different kind of pain. Unlike the rock, it reacts, but defensively. It doesn't chase or pursue. It harms only when approached. Fans have interpreted this as emotional unavailability rather than cruelty, someone who isn't trying to hurt you but also isn't capable of closeness. In both cases, the relationships fail not because of malice but because of incompatibility. What makes this more unsettling is the way both relationships are acquired. They are purchased. The rock arrives in a box. The cactus comes from a mall store. These aren't spontaneous connections. They are deliberate investments. The video quietly suggests that the characters knew what they were choosing. They paid for it anyway. That reframes the entire story. The pain wasn't unavoidable. It was rationalized. This is where the Opalite spray becomes central. Before it appears, both characters are isolated. Taylor's character has no visible friends. The world feels small, self-contained, lonely. But instead of spraying someone else first, Taylor sprays herself. That choice matters. It echoes a recurring theme in her work, internalizing blame, assuming responsibility for emotional failure, believing that if she could just fix herself, everything else would fall into place. The transformation isn't clean, it's uncomfortable. She's covered in goo, almost alien, as if self-awareness requires shedding something unpleasant before relief arrives. The texture and imagery recall sci-fi and space motifs seen elsewhere in her recent visuals, suggesting emotional dislocation, not instant clarity. After this moment, the social landscape changes. Friendship appears. Louis Capaldi's character explicitly wants to be friends. That detail is easy to miss, but it's critical. Connection doesn't arrive through romance, it arrives through mutual recognition. Later, when they encounter their exes in the mall, they don't confront them, they don't seek validation or closure, they run away together, not out of fear but out of refusal. The past doesn't get the final word. Throughout the video, gemstone choices recur: sapphire, moonstone, onyx, opalite. Each one represents a different emotional outcome, and they appear in pairs, 2 options every time. This reinforces the idea that happiness isn't a reward, it's a decision, not between good and bad, but between familiar pain and unfamiliar peace. The friendship bracelet on the rock complicates things further. Friendship bracelets are deeply symbolic in Taylor's recent work, often representing platonic bonds rather than romantic ones. The rock is included in her life but never truly partnered with her. They share space, not intimacy. By contrast, the cactus relationship is public. They hold hands. They acknowledge each other openly. It's imperfect, but it's mutual. The ending refuses to universalize the transformation. Not everyone changes. Garbage stays garbage. The stapler goes to therapy. Some characters remain under the influence of Opalite, an external force that turns people into objects. This suggests that toxicity isn't inherent, it's learned, reinforced, and sometimes willingly maintained. Growth is possible, but not mandatory. Even the background details support this reading. Store names resemble lyric fragments. Choreography nods to sitcom nostalgia, grounding the surreal narrative in shared cultural memory. Bookcases, crowns, and color schemes hint at album-era storytelling, suggesting that this isn't a standalone message, but part of a longer creative arc. What's important is what the video doesn't do. It doesn't villainize exes. It doesn't frame Taylor as victorious. It doesn't promise permanence. Instead, it offers empathy for herself, for others, and for the fact that sometimes relationships fail not because someone was wrong, but because the dynamic itself was unsustainable. At its core, Opalite seems to be asking a quiet question. How often do we confuse endurance with love? How many times do we carry something heavy, believing that effort alone makes it meaningful? And how much of our self-blame is actually a refusal to admit that leaving might be the healthier choice? If this video marks a shift, it's not toward cynicism, it's toward autonomy, toward choosing peace over performance, toward recognizing that happiness isn't something someone gives you, it's something you stop denying yourself. And maybe that's why Opalite lingers, not because it's cryptic or clever or packed with Easter eggs, but because it reflects a moment most people recognize. The moment you realize the problem was never that you didn't love enough. It was that you loved something that could never love you back.